And we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. My name is James. I'm going to be your host. And tonight I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tape part of this broadcast and put it on TikTok. I think I really missed out on this, just like I missed out on the whole YouTube thing when I did for the first 2.5 years. I did just audio podcasts, and now video is the way to go, man. Wow, This is a powerful media. But if I put this on TikTok, I can reach 6, 8, 100 times the people. What a great thing that would be. But anyways, I'd like to talk about my guest now. Tonight I have Charlie Anderson. Charlie's from kind of central east of Louisiana, and he's very active in the tournament world in Louisiana. And I'd like to have a piece of that. So anyways, Charlie also makes soft plastic lures. We're going to talk about all this, guys. Without further ado, how you doing tonight, Charlie?
I'm great, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing very good, man. It's an honor to have you on, man.
Thanks for having us.
I like to have local guys on, but I also like to have guys who aren't local. So
that's right.
I like to talk to people from all over the United States about bass fishing and other kinds of fishing. So, but tell me, so BassinInTheBoot.com, as you guys can see on the crawler down there. Tell me about that.
Well, Bassin In The Boot started, my brother and we got into bass fishing kind of late. We grew up kind of river rats, so to speak. We were white perch, sockeye fishing, running trot lines, just the old aluminum John boat, bateaus, paddling around bar pits and things like that. And that was kind of our way of fishing. And a buddy of mine years later, he said, let's go fishing. I said, sure. I walk out with some jig poles and hair jigs, thought we was going to look for some sockeye, some crappie. And he says, no, put that stuff up. We'll use mine today. Well, that was the first time I'd actually gone bass fishing. And couldn't throw an open face reel. Had a Zebco 33, and I was throwing a spinner bait. And caught 5, 6 little old bass that day. And since then, I've been hooked. Got my brother into it. And he and I just really started hitting this bass trail pretty hard and getting into it. And, of course, being ex-athletes and things like that, the competitive nature of the tournaments just fit right into that. So we started fishing some of the big bass splash out in Texas and Toledo Bay and a few other places, and just following that, whatever you can find on YouTube. I mean, we were just hungry. Anything bass fishing, we would talk about it, send messages back and forth during the day, and just really kind of got into that world. But looking to it, it was hard to find information. You could go to YouTube and watch a guy fish, but how to get to a particular lake or how to fish a certain body of water here in Louisiana, it was tough to find any information. And I was talking to Larry Bryant, who's a jig maker friend of mine over in Alexandria. He's got Bryant's Custom Jigs. I was talking to him one night, and I was fishing a little bitty small body of water over in Catahoula Parish called Wallace Lake. And Mr. Larry just kind of laughed. He said, how'd you find that boat ramp? And I told him, I said, well, I had to go with a buddy, of course. And so after I went through that, he said, somebody ought to write this down and tell folks where all these ramps are, how to get to these different lakes, what to fish, that sort of stuff. So Jeffrey and I got to talking about it, and that's kind of how Bassin In The Boot was born. So back in May of 2019, we had our first little edition come out, and we've talked to everybody from Joes to pros, rod builders, bait builders, everybody along the way. Anything to do with bass fishing in the state of Louisiana, we'll go cover it. And like I said, we've been in garages where people are making baits. We've been in living rooms where they're stringing rods. Just made a lot of good connections across the state and across the region, really, and talked to a lot of the same people you've talked to. Different, the bass community is huge, and it's a big market out there. It's a $60 billion industry in the United States, and we just really wanted to get involved in tournaments, in the aspect of it, get to know some people, and bass fishing is kind of unique. We've been to a lot of different places, and you can just about, within reason, walk up and talk to a professional bass angler, and he's going to talk to you just like y'all have known each other for 15 years.
Absolutely. That's what I like about fishing.
Pro baseball, pro football player, you couldn't get near those guys. But a bass angler, he'll talk to you. He'll spend some time with you. We've talked to different people with the magazine. Nick LeBrun, for instance, up around Shreveport-Bossier area, has done an interview with us. We've talked to other people. Just down to earth, good old people. and we just love being in that environment. And it's growing. Our desire to grow. It grew from Bassin In The Boot to Chongalu Outdoors, and so we just anything to do with bass fishing, we're all about jumping in it now.
So Bassin In The Boot is your online Bassin magazine.
Yes, sir. It is an online digital magazine that we put out monthly, bi-monthly, just depending on what the information is. You know, the winters are a little slow, but things are about to get kicked back off. The high schoolers are kicking off. The colleges are kicking off. Harris Chain's going to be hot this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody is.
I'm excited there.
You know, to me, tournament fishing I equate it a lot with like when Tiger Woods picked up a golf club. Everybody watched Tiger and thought, I can do that. And we see so much bass fishing, guys standing on the deck of a boat, flipping a jig, pitching some plastic, throwing a spinnerbait, and everybody goes, I can do that.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So go buy that $80,000 rig, get up front, buy that Ultrex, those power poles, get those graphs, all that, and get out there and see if you actually can do it. It's a little harder than it looks.
Man, I had guided for 15 years. I started, I dabbled in tournaments. So, man, I can do this, man. I started fishing the BFL in Wisconsin. And I'm like, I have a lot to learn.
Yes, sir.
I was guiding 3 different lakes and fishing all over the area, but tournament fishing was different. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but wow.
It's the camaraderie and the competition, I think, that drives so many of us, Gotten too old to play ball, gotten too old to run around, do whatever, but you can get on the front of that deck and spend 8 hours, and it's your best friends at blast off and your best friends at weigh in, but between those two horns, it's cutthroat sometimes. And I mean, that competitive drive is just, I think that's what keeps a lot of guys on the water.
And it's just pure adrenaline. It was pure adrenaline for me. When you're sitting there and there's some mist coming off the water and you hear all the boats and they say all the boats dead in the water. And then of course, a lot of tournaments pray. Then you have the national anthem, and then they start calling out boat numbers, and you hear the engines revving up. Man, ooh.
It gives you goosebumps, doesn't it?
It still does. I haven't done it in 10 years, but if I never do it again, I'll be fine. But, I still want to be, I think I found my niche,
Yes, sir.
Doing this, I'm much better at this than I was tournament fishing. There's a level playing field here. I like being an outdoor communicator.
Yes, sir. Well, we stay pretty active in the tournaments around on our Facebook page, Bassin In The Boot. We post all the tournaments of the weekend. Like I'll pin at the top. The January tournaments are up right now. The February tournaments. Of course, we like to cover all the big tournaments that are around the state. We've got a big one coming up in 2 weekends on Lake Bruin. The 35th J.R. Roberts Memorial Tournament's coming up. That's going to be on Lake Bruin, February the 5th. That's also Fishing for Tucker weekend down south is Fishing for Tucker on that same weekend, I believe.
Where's that one going to be?
I think that's I'd have to double check exactly. Let's see where Fishing for Tucker is. I think they maybe jump out of Dry Ronds.
Dry Ronds. I know exactly where that is. That's in.
And I may be
Louisiana.
Yes, I may be
stopping ground.
Somebody will correct me if I'm misspeaking there, but I believe it's out of down that way. I know either that or Bayou Black somewhere. I wish I had a phone a friend right here. I'm looking, but a lot of good things happening in bass fishing, because one of the things, like you mentioned, for instance, the camaraderie, all the different things as far as the national anthem, the prayer, all those type things, those are great and wonderful. But if you have something or somebody that is getting behind a cause, we do a lot of benefit tournaments. With Bassin In The Boot, we've worked with Brian and Kate Sebastian with the Gray Effect, which is they raise money for monitors for the babies that may have SIDS or be high risk for SIDS, because they had an infant that they lost to SIDS. So there's a benefit tournament every year that comes up. I think that one's usually in May. You've got the Poche tournament's coming up on Toledo Bend not long from now. That's out of Natchitoches. Of course, that's dedicated to an angler who passed away, and he was at Northwestern. He was an angler there, and his dad Bert. They put that on every year. That's in March, the end of March. So I mean, when you look at the bass fishing community around Louisiana, you've just got so many just close-knit people that are going to support one another, support the community, and they do it through bass fishing. And of course, anytime you get any of us Louisiana guys together, we're going to eat. We're going to have a good time, probably going to play a little music, and it's just a good, fun event for any of these benefit tournaments that you can hit. We just had one back in November here local to me down on Black River Lake, casting for kids that Brendan Russell and Shane Smith and a few others helped put on. And I mean, that's just huge because it raises money for children with medical needs and things of that nature. So, you know, and that goes to do with like Jacob Heath. He's got anything outdoors. And of course, he's always doing benefit tournaments and different things to raise money for St. Jude's. So, I mean, bass fishing and benefits and things like that. And it draws a lot of people. You know, you'll get 100, 150 boats at some of these tournaments.
Oh yeah. You know, that's the thing about the fishing community. You know, I have a good friend of mine who runs an autism fishing. It's called Fishing for Autism, and his favorite saying is, "There's more to fishing than just fishing." We have a comment here. Cajun Rob Fishing says that he misses fishing the brackish water down there. He started his love for fishing on the Pearl River above Honey Island Swamp and the some bluff, Walkiah bluff.
I'm not sure where that one's at. I've been over by the Pearl. I've got a good one of our partners, Patrick Angeron with Tangy Fishing Rods. He fishes with Florida Parish Anglers and
Sure.
Neil and those guys down there. They do a team tournament on Sundays. They're a team tournament club. They fish on Sundays, and they fish out of the Pearl, the Chafuncta, and all those places down there that's extremely difficult to pronounce. And
Oh yeah.
if you don't have a pin dropped, you can't find a tournament. So you don't know where you're going to launch from until somebody sends you a drop.
Well, I have if a guy didn't have a boat and he wanted to fish these tournaments, are there any boater non-boater tournaments?
You know, as far as like pairing up with an angler, that is one of the easiest things to do. You know, each week I do a Bassin In The Boot one fish tournament on one of my local lakes. I either alternate between Concordia and St. John, and we always have people that are willing to let you jump in a boat with them, do whatever the case may be as far as getting someone out on the water.
Sure.
You know, I'm not as familiar with like Fish from the Bank tournament and things of that nature. I know they're there. We've got a few different partners. We do a lot with BAM Bassing, which is a kayak group. So that and Brian Dunn with Louisiana Hook and Shoot. I know he's big on kayaks with the Viking kayaks and things. And they probably would have a lot more of the non-boater aspect of it. Although, of course, any of the, you know, the bigger tournaments, whether it's bass or, you know, MLF or whatever, they have the co-angler side. You can always go. But, you know, but I know from experience, our local clubs, like, for instance, this weekend, Miss Lou is fishing on Bruin. Everybody's getting ready for the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be at Bruin, whether it's the Zeke Memorial or whether it's the J.R. Roberts. So everyone is going that way. Sunday we'll be at Bruin. And I know several times we've had folks just double up as a singles tournament. But you double up whether, you know, it may be a guy without a boat or maybe his boat's in the shop, whatever the case may be. I mean, that's the good thing about the bass fishing industry. I mean, guys are willing to help each other out and do whatever. I know we work closely with Cody Jones Fishing, which is a young guy that's trying to break into, you know, the pro ranks right now, and he's fishing. But right now he's between boats because he's got his for sale, and he's waiting on his new Phoenix to come in.
And what is his name?
Marine. Cody Jones. Cody Jones Fishing he's out of Winsboro, Louisiana.
And where is that?
Winsboro is about halfway between Natchez and Monroe, I guess would be a good description.
Way up there.
Where that's at. Way up there, way up past I-10, huh? So anything up I-10, I know is that's Yankee land. So, but it is on this side. It's south of I-20, so it's not too far north.
Yeah, I live in Denham Springs, which is just over by Baton Rouge. So.
Yes, sir.
Which I-10 goes right through.
And I think as far as Louisiana is concerned, and I'll get bombarded with comments here, but I think Baton Rouge is probably at least in the folks who live in Baton Rouge, the epicenter of the bass fishing community in Louisiana. And
Really?
surprisingly, they don't have that much water to fish.
No, you
So
have
many
the
of you guys
Atchafalaya
have to
Basin.
come up our way to do some fishing. I know our lakes are always full with some of the clubs from whether it's West Side or Denham Springs or wherever the case may be. We have a lot of clubs that come up and fish our lakes from down that way. So we see them on Concordia, St. John, Bruin. So surprisingly, right down there where all the rivers come together, there's not much. I mean, it's the same.
Well, you can either fish the basin or you can go over to the Henderson, or
Yeah.
yeah, we just lost one of our Great Lakes up there in Mississippi. They just closed that down.
Yeah, they closed Okissa.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was, but they're gonna bring it back, and it's going to have a resort on it. And I see, in my future, I see spending a lot of weekends there.
Oh yeah, Okissa's about 45 minutes from me.
Okay, yeah, we could meet there because I'm about an hour and a half.
And in fact, the guy I mentioned, Patrick Osron, he does a lot of fishing out that way, or was when it was open. He does I know they have tournaments out there on Thursdays that some of the guys that fish with us are involved in. Some Brookhaven Bass Club, and I think they do a Thursday night fish out there. So it's
okay. Well, why don't you tell me about your soft plastics?
well through Bassin In The Boot. Actually, my brother and I, we travel around the state and we talk to different people. We would talk to rod builders, we talk to plastic makers, we talk to different people in the industry. Covered a lot of different people. I think you had Zach on a couple weeks ago with Cajun Lures. We went down and talked with Zach in Kaplan.
I have fished with Zach, yeah.
Zach's a heck of a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so just being around all these people and talking to them and covering them in the magazine and stuff, everybody it almost seemed like so many people were at the same point. They just weren't quite breaking over that edge of getting products out there on the market. And I was actually down at a friend of mine, Larry Bro's got a unique place, one of the most unique places you'll ever be. He has a tackle shop in his wife's hair salon in Hayes, Louisiana, behind some of the best crawfish you'll ever eat at Poole's Ball House. Long story short, it's a big family that they have 2 or 3 different businesses all on this one little corner block in Hayes, Louisiana, which is down by that Lacassine pool, if you've ever been down there fishing it.
I would have wanted to fish that, but they have so many regulations, man. You got to have a boat.
They do, but Larry Bro tells me there's some monsters in there. But
I see pictures all the time of 10-pound plus.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And he's promising me to bring me down, give me some crawfish, and take me fishing. So that's a heck of a good spot. But right where you make that turn to go, there's that ball house, that crawfish. And I'm telling you, it's you down there in Cajun land, so them crawfish are fine.
And that is the area where there's nothing but rice fields that turn into crawfish ponds.
Exactly. And well, I was sitting there talking with Larry, and he was telling me, this was when Zoom was kind of having some distribution problems. It was we couldn't get products, supply was backed up, and we were using a guy in North Louisiana in Farmerville for pretty much all of our connections with our people, and say, look, hey, go to Jamie Parker, which is a guy that we use, Parker Bait Company. Jamie can help you with anything. And Larry said, I need some black flukes to fish down here in this pool. I can't get them. So I called Jamie, and Jamie's like, no. He said, Charlie, I'm thinking about getting out of it. I got started a new family, got a new baby on the way, all this sort of stuff. So I called Jeffrey and I tell him, I said, who are we going to use for plastics now? And he said, well, call Jamie back and see what he wants for his stuff. And boom, Chongalu Outdoors was born. We got into soft plastics. We had a huge learning curve, which Jamie was there along the step of the way. Zach's helped us out a little bit with, different blends, colors, different things. Just talk, not necessarily recipes or anything, but just encouraging. And it's amazing how all these different people who are somewhat competitors, there's still that camaraderie in the bass fishing industry. And you wouldn't have that in any other business, And
I completely agree with you there, because, I know about 4 other guys who have podcasts. I've been on all their podcasts. They've been on mine, and we share ideas.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure you don't ever show your whole hand, but we help each other out, because the way I look at it is just like you guys. It's growing the industry.
It is.
That's the way I look at it. It's for the good of the industry, and the industry that I love so much. and it's all centered around the sport that I've been literally obsessed with since I was 4 years old. And I'm not talking competitive bass fishing, but just the sport of fishing.
Yes, sir. And it's well, that's kind of the way Chongalu was born. We of course we started getting tungsten on the shells. We started doing soft plastics, and we've gone through some growing pains. We've been doing it about a year and a half, and we're in about 15 to 17, 18 retailers now. Mostly pretty regional and local between myself, which I live in Vidalia over by Natchez, Mississippi, and my brother who lives up in Bossier. We kind of like to keep people on that loop. So if we're delivering or whatnot, but yeah, we're in a good number of places. We're over in Natchez, Mississippi at the Sports Center. We're at UPAC in Faraday, which is one of our biggest supporters from the start. UPAC is right here by Concordia and Lake St. John. A lot of people don't even know we have such a wonderful tackle spot right here in Faraday, Louisiana, because there's just not much here. They look for Walmart and that sort of stuff, but UPAC is jam-packed. They're very supportive, have all of our baits and things. Lakeview Lodge on Lake Concordia, Paul Rogers has been a huge supporter of ours. And so a lot of these retailers, limits in Winsboro, have just taken a chance on nobody, because here we are, we walk in, just like an old traveling salesman, you walk in and say, look, I got a quality product. Can you take a chance on me? And some people are gung-ho and they love the, Louisiana sales.
Yeah.
And not to throw Zach under the bus all the time. We've referred to him a couple different times, but Zach does a good job of selling Louisiana. And Louisiana sales, and everybody thinks outside Louisiana, you're from Illinois, you know this, everybody thinks we all have pet alligators. We paddle around in pirogues, and we eat crawfish every day. And it's, Louisiana is not a real big state, but regionally it's so different in different parts. You talked about fishing the basin and stuff down here. Where I'm at, we fish a lot of oxbows. There's a lot of oxbows off the Mississippi River, and that fish is a whole lot different from the basin.
It does.
You get north where you got Caddo or you got Bistino that's crystal clear. You got Darbone up in Farmerville. So a lot of different types of water you can fish. In fact, there's 41 different places you can put a bass boat in within an hour and 20 minutes of my front door. And it's just amazing the amount of water we have. I mean, we're blessed in this state. If you're a bass fisherman, this is one of the hot spots to be in the country.
Wow. So do you fish False River?
We go to False River some. I'd love to get there a little more. A buddy of mine, Mike Rice, just throw him a bone. Mike Rice caught a 9-pounder there last weekend. So I bet there's going to be some clubs headed to False River before too much longer.
Do you have some of your soft plastics to show us?
Yes, sir. I've got several different samples. I don't know if holding them up to the camera is going to be. We've got our beaver. This is our beaver. We call it a basin bug, actually. And
okay.
So that's for punching and flipping. We've got that. We've got our Zulu crawl. Of course, this here, it doesn't take long to take the jump from.
Oh, that's a punching thing right there.
Yes, sir. From Z to Zulu, that's where we got there.
Okay, we have a question here.
All right.
Since COVID hit, did you see an increase in tournaments and tournament anglers in the South Louisiana?
It was amazing. Everything shut down except our lakes.
Yeah.
It was crazy. We had people coming from all over to come up and fish the lakes. Of course, you had to keep your distance, but you saw everybody on the lake. It was like everybody was taking this opportunity to fish. And it happened, I definitely am not happy about the pandemic. But from a business standpoint, it was a very much a kickstart for Chongalu Outdoors, because where a lot of people were having trouble getting supply and demand met, we were not. We could get plastic, we could get color, we could get glitter, and we could get it made and on the shelf, where a lot of your national brands were having supply issues, working issues, and things of that nature. Well, being pretty much quarantined away, my brother was able to just work in the shop, labor away and try to get as much on the shelf as we could. And we actually gained a number of retailers during that pandemic time. That translated obviously into the tournaments. People were keeping their distance. We were, being cautious at tournaments and weigh-in and stuff like that. But we never quit fishing in our area. Our clubs fished on the weekends. I host a weekly Bassin In The Boot, one fish, big bass tournament every week. So it's like a big bass pot. We bounced that back from Concordia and St. John. Never really missed a beat. We just stayed right at it because fishing was something we were outdoors. We were in the sunlight. Woo! Speaking of outdoors and lightning, that was pretty close there. We got some thunderstorms rolling through here, so if we lose power, I'll go to the phone. But we never really missed a beat with the tournaments. I mean, it was really something that you saw a lot of people come together, and you could do it outdoors. So it was a positive overall for us, definitely.
Okay. Well, you were showing us the great punching.
Yeah, I've got this is our Zulu crawl, which it's kind of similar to Zoom Z crawl. This is a mold made by Hog Salad, and it's a punching rig. I mean, flipping, you can Texas rig it. You can put it behind a jig. If you want to put it under a punch skirt, whatever the case, that's perfect for that.
You might want to try putting that on a vector mayhem flipping hook.
There we go.
I love those, man. They're great. They go right. They have a keeper on them.
That's right. I'm familiar with some of the vector hooks. We use those. I know at some of our suppliers. So
Rob, Cajun Rob, who's in here, is big in their pro staff. Look at those things.
That's right. Now this is what we call our voodoo crawl. Of course, being in Louisiana, we like to keep everything, Louisiana centered. So this is our voodoo crawl, and we've got a regular voodoo crawl and then a junior. You can see the size difference. One is about 4 inches, one's 3.4, I think, is the length on these. So that's there. Now this is something unique that unique to us. It's our custom chunk, and we have this available in
look at that.
In the jig chunk, and we have it in this size. We also have it in the junior size. And
that looks like the 1970s Uncle Josh pork rind. I love it.
It still catches fish, and this
absolutely.
This is a custom mold that we had made up at Ultra Molds in Ruston, and a lot of people don't know that for the soft plastics, we have a wonderful, I mean, just super resourceful company right there in Ruston, Louisiana, Ultra Molds, which makes the shooting star, which a lot of your hand injection guys are using. They have the molds. They're able to do the CNC. And Rupert Jenkins up there is just, I mean, they are doing a heck of a good job keeping, us small regional bait guys supplied with the molds we need, with the things that the shooting stars and the different injectors and things. So that's right here in Ruston, Louisiana, where a lot of people were having trouble getting things from the big lead times for people like AI and fat guys and stuff like that makes a lot of the bass molds. The lead times got really big, but being local like that, we were able to get some stuff that other people were not maybe. And again, not glad the pandemic happened, but it really was, kind of a steroid for us to keep going and to push forward with Chongalu.
Well, I'm glad something good came out of it. That's, I heard that from a lot of guys, like Zach was telling me, he's busier than ever. And he still is,
Yes, sir. We carry the Tungsten. Our Tungsten is top quality. The size is stamped on it, so you don't have to wonder what size it is. It's right there on the weight, so that's nice. It's not an insert. It's a solid piece, so it's not going to rip your line. It's not going to tear your line. You're not going to break fish off. So that's one of our quality products. And so if you're in some of the retailers, this is our bag. So it's, Chongalu is actually an Indian word, and it basically describes what a swamp, running water type environment is. And you see our cypress tree, and then we've got the stream. Trying to get on this camera here. We got the stream right over here that is that stream runs through it, and of course we got that beautiful sunset that we see so many times in the marsh and down in the cypress swamps and different things like that. So this is our bag and our design. And like I said, that Chongalu is an Indian word that basically just describes that whole basin type, cypress, swamp, just where bass love to hang out. So that's how we come up with Chongalu Outdoors. After we researched and found that name, we found out, lo and behold, there is a Chongalu, Louisiana in the northwest corner. So wow. That was kind of neat. And everybody, of course, wants to know, are you from there? And we're not, but we're glad to have that little bit of Louisiana with us, I suppose.
So that's up there, towards Arkansas, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's over kind of sort of Shreveport, Minden, kind of in that northwest corner.
Okay.
So I think they're over pretty close to, I guess some of their lakes would be Caddo, Cross, Bistino, some of that area. So
where the big boys live. Yeah.
That's right.
Man, because down here, we get a big fish kill about every 3 years when a huge hurricane comes through, and
Yes, sir.
so we catch a lot of 2-3 pounders, and then we lose them.
Well, I know, of course, my home lake, I guess, would be Concordia, which in the years past has just been a phenomenal trophy lake. And we're still seeing this year in my tournament, actually, we had a 6-pounder that was weighed in. We had, and then we also had a 644 that was weighed in on Lake St. John. Ray Albritton caught the 644 on St. John, and Greg Rabb caught the 6-pounder on Concordia. So, I mean, there's 6-pound fish. And I know last season, I think it was Chad Wiley caught one nearly 9 pounds out of Concordia. Cody Jones caught a 7-pounder out of Concordia. So we got big fish up here. And I think that's what brings a lot of the clubs up here. You were mentioning co-angler or team clubs. There's a good club that Carl Snyder and Dwayne run out of False River, New Roads area, and that's Mid-South. And I know, I think their first stop is in New Roads on False River, but then pretty soon up there they're coming to Concordia, they're coming to St. John, they'll fish Henderson, Old River, and a few of those rivers. So, and then I think their classics on Bruin every year. So they got a good mixture of fishing in their lineup.
Well, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome, man. I love it. Well, hey, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do? Any thank yous, any clubs, any organizations?
Well, I'd definitely like to thank our sponsors, the people who are our partners. If you go on our Bassin In The Boot website, or if you go on our Facebook page, you'll see that, our goal is to partner with people across the state who can help one another or who can coexist or whatever the case may be. And, whether it's a boat dealer, whether it's a rod dealer, another bait maker, whatever the case may be, we do so much dealing with people, and it really doesn't, no one steps on each other's toes, and it doesn't matter. Right here at home, I got Brian's Marine that is kind of my home dealership. They carry our plastics. They help sponsor our tournaments. They put in, they're a partner with our Bassin In The Boot magazine. Lakeview Lodge is right here on Concordia. If you guys are in the state, if you're within driving distance of Lakeview Lodge in Fairview, Louisiana, on Lake Concordia, and you haven't bass fished Lake Concordia, you are truly missing out. The hospitality that Paul and Angel Rogers has, they're going to open the doors for you. They're going to sit on the back porch, and if you come at the right time, Miss Angel's going to cook and feed you. I promise you.
Dang.
They originally from down south around Baker area, I believe, and they don't know anything other than be hospitable. And Lakeview Lodge has been a huge sponsor of ours. That's where all of our tournaments come out of when we're on Concordia. And they're there every step of the way. Like I said, they carry our baits in their shop, and just a wonderful place. They've got rooms there. They've got a big house so you can rent big parties, whatever the case may be. I know out of Denham down in that area, you've got the Junior Bassmasters. They come up every year and fish their Father's Day tournament out of Lakeview Lodge. So a lot of folks are down there are pretty familiar with Lakeview Lodge. Of course, Tangy Fishing Rods, Patrick Ongeron, he's a partner of ours. He gives away a rod every year to anybody who catches a 6-pounder. Doug Blacklock with Cajun Limb Outdoors, he's down your way in the Baton Rouge area. Doug gives away a rod to the Classic winner every year for Bassin In The Boot Classic. So he gave away a rod for us this year. We've got a lot of people, boat dealerships that help us, that are co-sponsors with us. Morris Marine out of West Monroe, Cajun Outboards out of Addis, Red River out of Alexandria over there. Those guys just step up. If you want to, if you need a gift certificate, if you need money for a tournament giveaway, something like that, those boat dealers, because they're there. They're truly one of the heart and souls of our industry, I guess. And then we have some people who are, I'm looking at my list here. I didn't want to leave anybody out, and I'm sure I will. But like Larry Bryan at Bryan's Custom Jigs over in Ellick, anytime we need some giveaways for our tournaments, Larry sends us stuff. He takes care of the anglers, and I can't tell you the number of people, not that we're anybody, but if you need a good jig, I always send people at least to talk to Mr. Larry, because, he is one of the top in the industry. Jaboom Bait Company with Kobe and them, that has just exploded. Jaboom is one of our partners down there. Kobe and Norris has put together a heck of a product for you guys down there that's doing punching with those beaver balls. those things just flat out catch fish. And I tell you, it's really a good product, but it's unique. And if you haven't fished with Jaboom yet, you need to grab some of those. You can get them at just about any shelf. They're just blooming down there. Everybody's wanting to fish with Jaboom. Definitely Z's Tackle. Joey has been a huge supporter of ours in Lutcher, Louisiana. So all those guys, I mean, it's just a whole bass fishing network. I mean, everybody here just works together, collaborates, and it's like you said, it's to promote the whole industry.
Yes, exactly.
You know, everybody wants a little piece of the pie, but we don't mind sharing the pie. I think is one of the things you see in this industry that's different than most.
When we collaborate, when we work together, we make the pie bigger.
Most certainly.
That's just the way it works, man. That's just the way it works.
It's awesome.
It makes the whole thing, it makes doing business so much more pleasurable when everybody's working together. It
does. We made so many partnerships. One of the partnerships I would hate not to mention is a company, a lure that Jeffrey and I entered in with Mr. Keith Fazell, he has Red Alert Lures. And
yes.
We covered Mr. Keith in the Bassin In The Boot magazine. I went over to his house and he kept wanting to tell me about these saltwater popping corks. And I tell him, that's great. And I want to get down there in the marsh and catch some redfish and all of that. But I'm here to talk about bass fishing. So he showed me this little fold up A-rig that he had over on the shelf. He said, I really hadn't done anything with that lately, but that's called the triple threat.
Yes.
So we looked at it and I kind of looked at it and I thought, oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, let's talk about it. And he showed it to me, this sort of stuff. Well, I took one and to be honest with you, I went to a little small place over in Catahoula Parish, Bursley Bay, and caught about 30 little bass on that Louisiana triple threat that next day. And I called Mr. Keith. I said, I got to have some of these put on the website. And so we ended up going into a partnership with him, doing some marketing, doing a whole lot of revamping, standardizing the lure. But it is a fold-up A-rig, and it is really – it's a unique little lure. You can fish it like a spinnerbait. You can put tungsten out front of it, get it down in the water column. LouisianaTripleThreat.com. You can pull that up and take a look. That's quite a neat little lure too within itself. So, but like you said, it's just everybody in the industry they want to help, they want to promote themselves, they want to promote the whole industry. But I think collaboratively, one of the things we do best is promote Louisiana, and that's huge because, like I said, Louisiana is a unique place. It's a wonderful culture. The people here are just excellent to be around, and that's one of the things that we definitely are all about with Bassin In The Boot is promoting the state through bass fishing, of course, but we love Louisiana. In fact, that's our hashtag, Go Bassin.
Go Bassin. I like that. Well, hey man, Charlie, I'd like to thank you for coming on to the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. It certainly was a pleasure having you on.
I've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening, for actually tuning into the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Again, my name is Jay Angel with very, very special guest, Charlie from Chongalu.com and Bassin In The Boot. Thank you. Have a good evening, guys.